% off entry until the 31st of January in partnership with Tesco.
Like a radio.
All about the music.
All about the music.
This is Like a Radio.
Now let's take a look at the weather, brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Good morning. The weather today mostly cloudy with frequent and often heavy showers. These will fall as rain and with hails in some heavier brush. And the tonight temperature will be 3 degrees Celsius, and the maximum temperature in London today will be 5 degrees Celsius, and there will be a chance of rain of 20%. That's the weather today in London.
The weather update was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
Talking Points with Keith Faz on Like a Radio 1458 AM.
Good morning and welcome to Talking Points on Like a Radio 1458 with me, Keith Vaz. Thank you for joining me today, Sunday the 3rd of January 2021. I want to wish every one of you, devoted Leica listeners, a happy and healthy new year. 2020 was a time of great challenges and tragic loss, and I hope that 2021 for you and the rest of the country offers the promise of brighter days ahead. Now, assisting me today is Jazz. Jazz, thank you for coming in. Tell me, did you have a good New Year's celebration?
I had a good New Year celebrations, Keith, because it was like very quiet. I've just like watched films, Netflix, and have some snacks and just relaxed. Like it was a very relaxing New Year, I would say. And very excited for 2021.
Really? Well, you know, there's an old saying that the first tall, dark stranger who enters your house after midnight on New Year's Day, you will be spending a lot of time with. So I think you should reveal to the listeners of Like a Radio who that tall, dark stranger was who came through your door after midnight.
Keith, seriously?
Seriously?
I'm still waiting.
Oh, my God. Like Diana Ross, you're still waiting.
No one came. No one came.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I thought, you know, the milkman or someone like that, but nobody.
Nobody.
Oh. Well, I can't reveal your address over the air, but next week I want you to report that somebody came. I think it's important.
Cool.
Do you think? So thank you for coming in, Jazz, and for looking after me today. Back to business. On this day, the first flip mobile phone, the Motorola Star, went on sale, eventually selling 60 million items. If only they knew in 1996 how essential the mobile phone was going to be. And in 2009, on this day, the Bitcoin network was created as the first digital currency. That was only 12 years ago, and I'm yet to see my first Bitcoin. My special guest today is one of the 19 British Muslim MPs in the House of Commons, and one who has lived through more in her years than some have in an entire lifetime. Trust me, it's a remarkable journey and worth listening to. Joining me shortly will be the MP for Bradford West and Shadow Cohesion Minister Naz Shah. After that, we're going 8,000 miles to the party capital of India, Goa, to see what happened to their usually fabulous New Year's celebrations. We'll be speaking to the first woman CEO of a football club in the Indian League, Valanka Alamo. Since so much of this year has been challenging, we at Talking Points will be injecting some positivity into the first Sunday of 2021 with our first annual Best of Awards, starting with the Best of 2020. So after the 11 o'clock news, stay tuned. I'll be revealing who I and the Talking Points listeners group consider worthy recipients of the Doctor of the Year, Business of the Year, Book of the Year, and Council Leader of the Year, and talking to them about the key to their success. So get your notebooks out. You won't want to miss it. Please stay tuned. Our first songs of the week for the new year have been chosen by Manju Patel from Harrow. She's a single mum to two teenage boys, Ashil, 16, and Dhruv, who is 14. She works in the property management sector. She is a certified Reiki and intuitive healer. You could find her on her Facebook page, Spiritual Lioness, where she posts spiritual posts daily. Good morning, Manju.
Good morning, Keith.
Why have you chosen these songs, and whom are they dedicated to?
Well, the first song I've chosen is Keriat from the film Chichura. It's one of Sushant Singh Rajput's last films before he sadly passed away this year. This song is dedicated to all the Sushant Singh Rajput fans.
Manju, what about your second song?
So the second song is Bhagyore Dol from the film Hilaro. I have chosen this song because it is based in Gujarat, India, where my family is from, and also about women empowerment. So this song goes out to all the women out there.
And there we have it. Manju Patel is giving us a steer for 2021. She wants that to be a year of women's empowerment, not just in Harrow, but the rest of the country. Thank you, Manju. Have a very happy new year to you and your family.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vaz. Wishing you and all the Leica Radio listeners a happy new year.
This is
Leica Radio.
My special guest today is the MP for her hometown of Bradford, and by her own description, a true Yorkshire lass. Her life journey must be one of the most extraordinary of any member of the House of Commons. She was forced into arranged marriage at the age of 15. She was then sent to Pakistan by her mother to protect her from an abusive father, who was later killed by her mother following physical and sexual abuse. She then campaigned for years to get her mum released from prison. She fought and won an incredible election victory against the sitting MP George Galloway in 2015. She's had a meteoric rise through the Labour Party ranks since the election and is currently the Shadow Minister for Community Cohesion. She used to chair a mental health charity, Sharing Voices Bradford, and worked as an NHS Commissioner before entering Parliament. Her political education has been one forged in experience rather than theory. She's a true inspiration to all aspiring parliamentarians. Let's talk to the MP for Bradford West. Good morning, Naz Shah, and thank you for joining Talking Points.
Good morning, Keith, and thank you for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction.
Now, Naz Shah, you were born in Bradford. You faced many challenges during your childhood. Your father, as we've heard, left your mother at the age of 6, and you later became involved with an abusive partner. Do you believe those challenges that you faced in your early life have helped or hindered your subsequent career and life?
I think a bit of both, really, Keith, because it hindered me in terms of I didn't get the formal education, so I feel that I've missed out on being able to get my degree, and I've come from an unusual role. But it's also helped me in terms of it's given me an education from the University of Life, which is absolutely priceless. So I'm very grateful for all my experiences, really. They've taught me what I know and given me the resilience which is needed in politics so much. It's been both.
But there's no doubt that you suffered in your early life. You were sent to live in Pakistan at the age of only 12, and you entered an arranged marriage at the age of 15. You were asked to make adult choices at a very, very young age, and those experiences seems to have guided you and made you campaign so hard for those who were victims, like you were a victim.
Oh, absolutely. It's very much defined and shaped my existence and my being. So I'm very much informed, the kind of things that I campaign on, the issue of women's rights and equality, fairness and justice, which is why I'm aligned to the Labour Party, because those three core principles really attracted me to what I am today. So I didn't have a childhood. I've kind of lost my childhood because being going over to Pakistan at the age of 12 and having the experiences I did. So I became an adult very early on, and I had responsibilities from the age of 6 having to translate for my mum because she couldn't speak English, showing her how to get on because she didn't have a clue about living a life independently with 3 young children. So yeah, I've grown up before my years, for sure, definitely. That's absolutely right.
But when you returned from Pakistan, you heard the news about your mother and your father, and she obviously was sent to prison following the fact that she killed her partner. You then started a campaign for her. You were very much involved in the campaign. It must have been very traumatic for you to be involved in a campaign to try and get your own mother released from prison following the fact that your father had been killed by her.
So it wasn't actually my father, it was an abusive partner. My father had left my mum at an early age when I was 6. So the guy who then came into her life, he abused her for years and years. He had financial control over her. He bought her a house, and the first time he took her to the house, he raped her. He pimped her from prison. He went to prison, so he was a guy who was a big figure in the community, the neighbour's nephew, who my mum thought was her knight in shining armour, and he abused her for years. And in 92, so I'd gone to Pakistan, I'd stayed there over 2 years, had my forced marriage at 15, came back and worked. Then I'd gone back to apply for my husband's visa, and then I came to the UK, and then it was at a time when my mum actually was driven to kill Azam, and she got 20 years, she got a 20-year sentence. And then I campaigned because she never talked about why she was driven to do what she did, and she never confessed that she'd actually murdered him. So it took us years. First of all, it took us years to get the actual story out of her, and that was done by Southall Black Sisters, who led the campaign. They could see clearly there was something more to it than what the court system could see, who'd given her a 20-year tariff. So they helped us out a lot. And then we did a campaign in the mid-90s, and then it was Jack Straw. And I remember you yourself were in Parliament and an MP at the time. Jack Straw was the then Home Secretary, who then reduced her tariff from 20 years to 12 years, but she still served 14 years because the system wasn't geared up to recognise her remorse or her rehabilitation, because it's not made to take cultural issues into account or anything. So there was lots of campaigning from all areas.
This is Keith Vaz on Like Radio 1458 talking to Naz Shah MP, the Member of Parliament for Bradford West. When we come back, we're going to talk about her life before Parliament, working as a social worker, her work on behalf of various charities, and then her famous election to the House of Commons. Join us after the break.
साल है अंजाम है तय मेरा होना तुम्हें है मेरा जितनी भी हो दूरियां फिलहाल है ये दूरियां फिलहाल है ओ खैरियत पूछो कभी तो कैफियत पूछो तुम्हारे बिन दीवाने का क्या हाल है दिल मेरा देखो ना मेरी हैसियत पूछो तेरे बिन एक दिन जैसे 100 साल है तस्वीर के सहारे मौसम कई गुजारे मौसमी ना समझो पर इश्क को हमारे नजरों के सामने मैं आता नहीं तुम्हारे मगर रहते हो हर पल मंजर में तुम हमारे से है मिला फिर दर्द से क्या गिला इस दर्द में जिंदगी खुशहाल है ये दूरियां फिलहाल है ओ खैरियत पूछो कभी तो कैफियत पूछो
This is Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Faz on Like Radio 1458, talking to the Member of Parliament for Bradford West, Naz Shah, who is the Shadow Minister for Community Cohesion. Naz Shah, you completed your GCSEs as a mature student and became a residential social worker. Were you drawn to this field particularly because of your experience as a child?
So yes, because my mum used to care for kids with disabilities. She used to be a respite provider, and then we grew up with children with disabilities around the house. So it was kind of like a natural thing for me to go into, is the caring field. So I became a residential social worker and a specialist in behaviour, children which presented challenging behaviour and autism. So I did a lot of work around that area, and then women in particular and accessing services. I also became a Samaritan as well at the same time.
Before becoming an MP, you were chairing a mental health charity, Sharing Voices Bradford. Did you get to see the importance of helping people with mental health issues while working at that charity? Because this is an area that is not really discussed in our communities, is it? There's still a little bit of a stigma to mental health issues. What did you draw from your experiences working for Sharing Voices Bradford?
So I was the commissioner in the NHS. I commissioned against public health priorities. But the mental health was very, very personal to me, because when my mum was in prison, I attempted suicide myself. I went through a roller coaster of issues with my own mental health. In particular, the first day that my mum had been convicted, my brother and sister weren't in the country, and I was all on my own on Eid Day. And it was too much for me to bear, and I really didn't want to wake up afterwards. So there were lots of my own episodes. So being able to contribute back, and you're absolutely right, Keith, people still do not talk about mental health. We still do not have a name in the Asian vocabulary for depression. In Urdu, for example, or Hindu, we don't actually have a name for it. So we have huge issues, and we don't talk about mental health, and we know that suicide is higher amongst young men. So it really is something that's very close to my heart, and I was able to give back, if you like, or play my part and contribute to that agenda. Then it's really, really important to talk about it.
Then, of course, you made that decision to run for Parliament. What made you decide that that is what you wanted to do, having done such amazing community work, having been very much a community activist? You had to go to Westminster and join the elite there. What made you put your name forward?
The reason was because I'd voted for George Galloway, and he'd sold me a story about Bradley politics, and that he'd come into Bradford and fix it all, because Bradford has a huge issue with Bradley politics, which is clan politics, which is an imported idea of patriarchal politics run by men for the sake of men. And he said he was going to eradicate that, and he didn't. And then so because he had my vote, it was only right that I challenged him for it. And I wanted to make a difference. So I went and stood against him. So, it was, it had to be done.
That was one of the most famous elections, wasn't it? I mean, it was a titanic struggle where the community was divided, where you personally suffered enormous personal abuse by some sections of the community. Looking back, did you ever think, was that really me? Did I really go through that? And then at the end, win?
Well, I never went in it to lose it, that was for sure. And I just wanted to expose him for the absentee MP that he was. He wasn't here. He was using Bradford. I felt that he used Bradford as an opportunity for him to do other things. He was never committed to the people of Bradford. Like, I'm born in Bradford West. I was raised in Bradford West. I represent Bradford West. You know, all the previous MPs recently, I went through old correspondence, and I found letters from Marsha Singh, from Anne Cryer, from Alice Mann, from Max Madden, supporting my mum's campaigns. When you're so intricately involved with your community, you understand it a lot better, and he didn't understand the community, and he didn't know the issues, and he certainly didn't represent us like he could have done. But I've never thought, well, was it me? Because I knew that I had to do it, because if there was anybody that was going to unseat George Galloway and it had to be a woman, then it had to be me. So I kind of felt that obligation to do it.
And what did your mum say when you told your mum, I've decided I'm going to stand for Parliament?
The first time I told my sister and my brother and my mum, they were, don't be silly, you can't go into politics, it's really, really horrible. And I said, well, if it's really horrible, if I'm not going to get in it, then somebody's got to do the job of cleaning it up, so who better than me? And it didn't take them a lot of, that convincing. Once they got there, they've been supportive ever since. And my mum was the woman who was on the front page of a local rag as a woman that has fallen, with shame and dishonour. And this is the same mother who's raised me and who I attribute a lot of my success to, from her guidance and her support, and she's still my rock. Now she's the mother of the only female Muslim MP in the whole of Yorkshire and Humber, and the first female MP in Bradford West. So we, as a family, have got a lot to be grateful for.
Indeed, and a lot to be proud for, as we all are. This is Keith Vaz on Like Radio 1458. I'm going to take a short break. I'm talking to Naz Shah MP, the Shadow Minister for Social Cohesion. Back after the break.
Like Radio.
Now open a bank account and send money to India instantly without visiting the branch ever. ICICI Bank UK का iMobile app मतलब परदेश में अपना बैंक. Download ICICI Bank UK iMobile app from your app store today. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey Jazz!
Hey Ruby, what a pleasant surprise.
Jazz, have you seen this new show on Colours, NRI Hadsa?
I did, and the last week's show reminded me so much of the story your husband was telling us about his friend. It seemed so real.
I thought so. After a long time, there's an interesting crime show which I could relate to. True stories about NRIs.
TravelUp.com presents NRI Hadsa, powered by ICICI Bank UK, a show inspired from real-life based crimes against NRIs. This Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. on Colours, only on Sky 706 and Virgin 826. Don't miss it, because crimes can happen to anyone at any time.
COVID-19 remains highly contagious, and even people without symptoms can spread it. So we need to keep washing our hands when we get home. Keep wearing our face coverings on the train. Keep making space at the shops. And now we're indoors more, we should let fresh air in to help blow COVID-19 particles away. Let's keep doing all we can to protect each other and help stop the spread. Remember, hands, face, space, and let fresh air in.
Like Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz on Like Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz, talking to Naz Shah, the Member of Parliament for Bradford West, as well as the Shadow Minister for Social Cohesion. You're standing there in Parliament, you're making your maiden speech, you are an active parliamentarian, you've sat on committees, you've taken up issues. Of all the bits and pieces that you have done, the kaleidoscope that is being a local MP, which bit gives you most pleasure?
I think the bit that gives me the most pleasure is there's two really. There's one is being able to get the amendment into the COVID legislation for which secured the burial for the Muslim and Jewish community. So that was a phenomenal piece of work, which was very, very hard because it was during COVID. It was emergency legislation. To get an amendment from the government, that took a lot of negotiation, etc. But also in Bradford locally, I raised the issue of the Samia Shahid murder, which was an honour crime. So I've done a lot of work around honour crime. I mean, we still haven't seen the end of that case, and it's been 4 years. But I'd like to think that I'll be able to get her justice at some point. So that has really, really been important, certainly for the work that I've done here in Bradford. I mean, everything that I've done in Parliament has been in the British Muslims All-Party Parliamentary Group, which I'm a vice chair of, to get the definition of Islamophobia to be adopted by the Labour Party, by all the political parties apart from the Tories in Westminster. So the Scottish Tories, everybody adopted that definition. And to talk like we've been able to, that's been a huge joint achievement with cross-party parliamentarians. So that's been something, that I can look back on and think I did something quite big there. I'm really pleased with and I'm very grateful for.
Now, you mentioned the Muslim community. Obviously, you are a Muslim woman. You're vice chair of the group, as you said, the All-Party Parliamentary Group. You chair the British Muslim Women's All-Party Group in the House of Commons. Do you worry about being defined by your religion, or do you think that that is just an inevitable part of being an ethnic minority MP with a passion who happens to also have a particular religion?
I think it's inevitable because we're in a very, very polarised place when it comes to politics right now. You've got the rise of the far right, the nationalist populism stuff, and that the anti-Muslim rhetoric is very, very alive and kicking. I recently won a libel case against Leave EU for using that trope about Muslim grooming gangs and, suggesting that I was a supporter of an apologist for grooming gangs, despite my years and years of work on supporting victims of grooming. So I think that is inevitable. I'm a constituency MP for a constituency which has one of the largest, more than 50% Muslim constituents. So, even if I was not a Muslim, any MP who was in my position would be taking up the issues which are pertinent to more than half of their constituents, which happen to be Muslims in the era of Islamophobia where it's so widespread. But I am very loud and proud Muslim, and I'm very, very clear that I draw my strength from my politics, from my religion, from my faith. So I'm not something I would ever apologise for, and I don't see any conflict between my British values and my Muslim values and my Islamic principles. So if anything, saviour from my own mental health demons, from my own past and the tragedy that I've experienced as a child and growing up and into a woman has been, I've got my strength from my faith, and I'm very proud of that, so I'm a very loud, proud Muslim.
Now, despite being an individual and an individual champion of many causes, the party system has been kind to you, and you have had a meteoric rise through the ranks of the Labour Party, and you're currently the Shadow Minister for Community Cohesion. What does that involve? How challenging is that particular work?
Well, I think right now, Keith, with the backdrop of Brexit, with the backdrop of COVID, and with the backdrop of 10 years of austerity, every member of our community, regardless of race, religion, background, gender, sexuality, need to feel that they matter and belong. And at the moment, that isn't the case because there's real division being sown across the communities. So the challenge for community cohesion to get us to a position where everybody reaches their full potential, everybody has the same choices, those equal opportunities, and equality isn't about achieving the same outcomes. I'm never going to be an award-winning runner or an athlete, but if I have the same opportunity to live my life to the best that I can be, then I've chosen that career in politics, and that's a fair point. But not everybody has those opportunities, and I think that's really, really important for us to get to, especially in the post-Brexit. And COVID is going to present its own challenges because, we've seen austerity, but let's be clear, that's nothing in comparison to what we're going to see for the economic challenges ahead of us to balance the books for the next 10, 20 years.
Indeed. This is Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458 talking to Naz Shah, the Shadow Minister for Community Cohesion and the Member of Parliament for Bradford West. After I speak with Naz Shah, I'll be talking with the Indian Football League's first and only female CEO, a rising star in the world of international football, joining me from 8,000 miles away in Goa and telling us how India's party state coped with the New Year celebrations under lockdown. And after the 11 o'clock news, I will be doing a New Year's roundup and telling you who we believe have been the best of 2020, giving out a number of awards to worthy recipients. Who will they be? Join me after the break.
Leica Radio travel update.
I'm Michael Page. On the M4 heading out of town at Junction 3 for Hayes and Heston, a broken down vehicle is parked blocking the entry slip. In East London, the A13 Newham Way is still closed at the Beckton roundabout because of emergency repairs. The diversions via the exit slip across the roundabout are rejoined by the entry slip. The outside lane is also closed on the eastbound side as you head out of town. Also heading out of town on the A13, approaching the Wellington interchange, there are still 2 lanes closed for emergency repairs. And in Shooters Hill on Shooters Hill Road, more emergency repairs and temporary lights are in place at the South Circular Junction. On Gunter Grove in Chelsea, on the northbound side in the one-way system coming off the Chelsea embankment, there are delays because of an earlier accident. The traffic lights have been damaged at the Kings Road junction. And in Ealing, alongside Ealing Common on the North Circular, there are temporary lights for water main works, which is causing a short delay both ways. On the Central Line, there's no service currently running between Leytonstone and Loughton and between Woodford and Hainault because of emergency services dealing with an incident. There are minor delays on the rest of the line as well. And there are still buses replacing Piccadilly Line services between Hammersmith and both Northfields and Uxbridge, and on the District Line between Turnham Green and Ealing Broadway because of engineering work. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Like a Radio. You may be in contact with more people over the holidays, so it's critical we watch out for COVID-19 symptoms. Here's Dr. Karim.
Remember the signs of COVID-19, a high temperature or a sudden loss or change in your sense of smell or taste, or a new continuous cough. If you have any of these, even if you are feeling okay, you must isolate at home to stop the spread, and you must book a test immediately. You can book a test as normal throughout the festive season. Use the NHS COVID-19 app or go to gov.uk/coronavirus.
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Leica.
This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458, talking to Naz Shah, the MP for Bradford West and the Shadow Minister for Social Cohesion. What a fascinating conversation. I've known Naz for many years, but there are things that she's saying that I never talked to her about, so this is fascinating. Naz, recently you were instrumental in writing to Home Secretary Priti Patel, saying this: being a person of colour does not automatically make you an authority on all forms of racism, challenging her statements on Black Lives Matter and the protests that we saw in June. Do you think, first of all, why did you do that? And secondly, do you think that the Black Lives Matter campaign has been a success?
Well, but the reason I did that, because we had a black MP of African Caribbean heritage who stood up and said, you know, I'm worried for my children. And then Priti Patel decided to say, well, I will not take lessons from her. I found it to be gaslighting, because I will not know what it's like to be a mother of a black young man faced with extra stop and searches and extra challenges, despite the fact that I have my own issues from a race perspective. It's not about me. I can't diminish another person's experience of racism. Mine is different, and it doesn't make me an expert on all of it. So I think it's about standing shoulder to shoulder with those people that have different experiences, rather than diminishing them, which is why I felt it was really important to highlight the issue. You know, the Black Lives Matter, the whole movement, it is something that I'm hoping will bring about huge amounts of change, because I think history has taught us that divisions never fare well for any community. So we need to recognise, if we look at the recent fiasco with, you know, Bernardo's talking about white privilege and the kind of pushback that we've had from that, and then Liz Truss going out and saying we talk more about racism instead of dealing with inequalities. Well, inequalities, there is structural racism, and until you don't deal with it, you're not going to get past those inequalities. And, you know, I really, really struggle with the whole kind of conservative agenda right now. And I also struggle with the idea of us keeping us in. It feels like, you know, they're having this conversation which is more about culture wars as opposed to dealing with their failures, and they want to digress from their actual failures, for example, COVID and other things that are happening, and keep us in conversations which need a different kind of mechanism to address those. And I think it's really, really important that we go back to looking at racism for what it really, really is, rather than saying, well, it's not, it's a construct, and just dismissing it altogether. So I do struggle with that.
Now, I understand you mentioned this earlier about COVID, that the issue of where the vaccine centres are to be placed in Bradford was an issue that you raised very strongly with Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary. But more than that, as far as COVID is concerned, I understand that you yourself have had some tests of the vaccine to try and counter the videos that seem to be going around in the community suggesting that people should not take the vaccine. What's your view on the vaccine?
So I'm absolutely clear. I've joined the vaccine trial here at Bradford Royal Infirmary, from which I'm really grateful for the work that they're doing. So I think that was really important for me to do, the Novavax. And then I also feel that by design excluded inner city areas. So, for example, Keith, our communities, our men are disproportionately impacted. Death is higher amongst South Asian men, black men. Our men, they do not live long enough. So, the criteria to have it over 80, their old is much earlier, from 60s, 65, 70. Their old doesn't start at 80 because they've got 16 years of added health issues and complex health needs. So when you put that together, 9 years less life expectancy, then all of that together, and the disproportionate way that COVID impacts on those communities, then I feel by design, saying that you'd have to have more than 1,500 people who are over 80, this doesn't take any of those into account of the impact of COVID on BAME communities, and it excludes the primary care networks in my constituency to be able to deliver the first vaccine. So we're not using localised knowledge, we're using a blanket approach, which is a bit like what they did with Serco and Test and Trace. Give Serco 22 billion, combined budget of the fire service and the police force for a system which didn't work. And in the end, we resorted back to where we got the success, which was localised knowledge. And why the government doesn't apply the same thing, again, is beyond me. And I've raised it with Nadeem Zahawi, I've raised it with Michael Gove in briefings, and I raised it with Matt Hancock during the statement. So I will continue to raise it. It's not something I'm going to be giving up on.
You're a single mother of 3, a campaigner, a daughter, a community champion. How have you been able to cope with all these different roles over the last 5 years? And what are your hopes for 2021 as we start a new year?
Well, I'm surrounded by amazing, amazing people. My children in particular, Liana, who's now 16, Aiden is 13, and Reese is 9. Reese was only 3 years old when I went into politics, and I have an amazing family, a small family, but absolutely amazing, and they punch above their weight when it comes to supporting me. I mean, travelling down with the children, being a single parent, for the last 2 years, this is the 3rd year now, schooled my children in London, so they have to do the travelling with me every weekend, which is really difficult. It's not easy, but then I also appreciate it comes as part and parcel of a job, and my children get that because they've known it from a very early age, and it does mean that they sacrifice a lot as well, because they don't maintain the kind of relationships and friendships in their schools and the ones that they're growing up here because of the time constraints and travelling every week. But I'm really, really blessed to have amazing friends and family who support me, without which I couldn't do my job. I really am.
And your hopes for 2021?
That we get this vaccine out and life goes back normal, as it will never be the same as what it was in 2020. Rather than, right now, I don't know whether my kids are going back to school on the 4th or the 11th, or what day, which kids are going back to school. The children that have got the GCSEs, I'm worried about their future, but I'm hoping that Boris Johnson shows some decisive leadership and fixes it, because he's had long enough, I can tell you.
We will put that to him when he next comes on the show. We always ask our special guests to choose a favourite song that has a special meaning to them. What's your favourite song, and who would you like to dedicate it to?
I think my favourite song is going to be, there was a song that I watched a movie many, many years ago, Ae Mere Humsafar, from Qiyamah Se Qiyamah Tak. It's one of those movies that stays with you for life as a teenager, so I was really mesmerised. So yes, it will be Ae Mere Humsafar from Qiyamah Se Qiyamah Tak.
Naz Shah, your story is a true inspiration to all of us and proof that your past does not define your future. Thank you for joining me on Talking Points this morning. From all the listeners of Leica Radio, have a very happy new year.
Thank you very, very much, Keith, and thank you to all your listeners, and Happy New Year to you all. Absolute pleasure.
ऐ मेरे हम सफर एक जरा इंतजार, सुन सदाएं दे रही है मंजिल प्यार की। ऐ मेरे हम सफर एक जरा इंतजार, सुन सदाएं दे रही है मंजिल प्यार की। अब है जुदाई का मौसम दो पल का मेहमान कैसे ना जाएगा अंधेरा क्यों न थमेगा तूफान
अब है जुदाई का मौसम दो पल का मेहमान कैसे न जाएगा अंधेरा क्यों न थमेगा तूफान कैसे न मिलेगी मंजिल प्यार की है मेरे हम सफर एक जरा इंतजार सुन सदाएं दे रही है मंजिल प्यार की प्यार ने जहाँ पे रखा है झूम के कदम एक बार वहीं से खुला है कोई रास्ता वहीं से गिरी है दीवार
प्यार ने जहाँ पे
Like a radio.
Punjab National Bank International Limited launches mobile app for personal customers. Whether you want to send money to India or view your latest balance, do that on the go. Simply download our app for free from your mobile app store. Terms and conditions apply. For more details, please visit
www.pnbint.com. Deposit protection from FSCS. Authorised by the PRA and regulated by FCA and PRA.
Visit travelhub.ltd.co.uk and get unbeatable deal on any hotel anywhere in the world. Yes, any hotel anywhere in the world.
लॉकडाउन में भी अपनों से मिलाए फ्लाई इंडिया विद एयर इंडिया कॉल ट्रैवल हब 24/7 ऑन 0208-782-8833 और विजिट travelhub.ltd.co.uk for online registration and formalities. Travel Hub will take care of everything.
Travel Hub, best service with unbeatable price.
At all protected.
T's and C's apply.
Whether it's getting back into work, thinking about a different job, or helping you improve your CV, we can help you make a new start. Visit gov.uk/jobhelp. A good place to start.
Leica.
This is Leica Radio.
This is Talking Points with Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458. From Bradford, let's go to Goa in India, when around this time of the year, it is the centre of the New Year celebrations, with hundreds of thousands descending on the former Portuguese colony. In India, however, the total number of COVID cases has reached 10.2 million, with 148,000 recorded deaths. Let's talk to one of Goa's most prominent female leaders. She's the first woman CEO of an Indian League football club, Churchill Brothers. She is a former Goan Youth Congress president, and when she held the post, she was the youngest ever Goan youth leader. She's a lawyer, a rising star in the world of international football. Joining me from Goa, let's talk to Valenka Alamo. Good morning, Valenka, and thank you for joining Talking Points. It's, of course, afternoon in Goa.
Good afternoon, Mr. Raz.
Valenka Alamo, how is the situation in Goa with regards to COVID?
Well, right now it's kind of fluid, but there are infections, which, there are cases every day. But that apart, there are tourists visiting Goa as well. So it is very fluid is all I can say.
How has the number of tourists visiting Goa been affected? There are normally 7.1 million foreign tourists in Goa every year, and about 900,000 stay on average for 5 days.
The economy of Goa majorly depends on tourism. So there has been a huge impact. I must say that a lot of employment and many families are dependent on tourism. But with this induced lockdown, COVID-19, unprecedented times, definitely it has affected a lot.
I suppose there is no sign when this is all going to change. What about the issue of the vaccine? The vaccine has started in the United Kingdom. Do you know when it's going to be rolled out in Goa?
Nobody can say as of now because we have been hearing right now that, there is a new strain in UK. A lot of people who have traveled from UK, so they have been testing almost every day from 25th of December. Nobody can say, it's totally unprecedented. We're just hoping for the best.
What about the issue of the vaccine? As you know, this has been rolled out in the United Kingdom, as we will hear later from one of our guests in part 2. Has it arrived in India, and when is it going to be rolled out there?
Well, till now, the program is not yet scheduled properly, but there has been the third human trial, and the government has been saying that they will go ahead with it from January. But yeah, fingers crossed, because we still do not know what is the blueprint like with the vaccine is concerned, but we know that India has definitely placed the order and everybody is going to get millions of people, but it still has to start.
Normally, most of India descends on Goa for the New Year's celebrations. How are the celebrations this week?
I must say that Goa is blessed because of, the coastal belt and many other things like culture and elsewhere. But we are thankful that at least the Indian tourists are still coming, but it's a major setback because a lot of our foreign tourists are not able to come in India, forget Goa, because there is a ban on the tourist visa. But in Goa, it has the highest economy as far as the tourism is concerned, and especially during this time, because we had a lot of Russians, Britishers, and so many people coming in. But apart from that, I think only the Indian tourists have been coming, so they have at least saved some part for the Goans. But end of the day, since it is COVID-19 and totally unprecedented, there are different safety norms and restrictions everywhere. People also have a little bit of fear. So yeah, it's quite a crazy situation for the New Year's.
Now, finally, Valenka Alamo, you are the first and at the moment the only female chief executive of an Indian League football club. How has COVID affected the football team? How have you been able to play your matches? We'll be hearing later from Emil Heskey in part 2 about the situation in the UK. But as far as your team is concerned, has it had an effect?
Mr. Raz, 2020 has been full of challenges, and especially when it comes to football. I must say that the Indian Federation has done a great job that they are having the league. It's quite challenging to have a league during these times, but yeah, they are. But it was quite a challenge to get our foreign players and getting all our Indian players as well, because, India is very diverse in culture, religion, and even region-wise with climate and elsewhere. Every state has a different safety norm. There are some states where RT-PCR is not a necessity. There are some states where you cannot travel without an RT-PCR. So yeah, it's been insane. It has been quite a task, but end of the day, we started training from November, but we had to undergo at least 6 RT-PCRs before the club could travel to a destination. And while playing, every week they have 1 RT-PCR. So I'm just hoping they have a lot of, safety norms which they have to go through. They have to take care. They have to stay in a bio bubble. They cannot just meet their families. They are just restricted to one confined area, and they just have to go to their practice stadium and the match day on that stadium. So yeah, it's even mentally, it's very challenging. So let's hope for the best.
Valenka Alamo, if there is anybody who can rise to the challenge and meet the challenge, then it is you. Could we wish you a very happy new year, not just to you personally, obviously, since you're from Goa, to everyone in Goa, and also to everyone in India who's listening in.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raz, for having me. To you too and everyone. God bless and hope we have a great 2021.
Mom, have you bought some of those delicious noodles?
You mean Coca, the king of noodles? Coca means delicious. Variety of flavors available in Coca Packet, Coca Cup and Coca Bowl noodles. Suitable for vegetarians and halal approved. The king of noodles, Coca noodles, packets, cups and bowls, now available everywhere in the UK.
During the pandemic, people started listening to radio for more information and entertainment. Radio is a comfort medium that people listen to everywhere. Through radio, online, mobile app and smart home devices like Alexa. If you are running a business and want to reach out to the masses throughout the day, then radio is the best cost-effective reminder. Call Leica Media Experienced Sales Team today to discuss your advertising needs on 0207 132 1458. That's 0207 132 1458.
This is Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458. After the news, I'll be announcing and speaking to the Best of 2020 award winners, individuals who we on Talking Points recognise for their work and the work of their colleagues. I wonder if you noticed on the news that Pep Guardiola, the manager or head coach of Manchester City, has decided that he might delay his retirement. I was just checking on his age. He's only 49. Incredible that you could postpone it. Well, for Leicester City supporters, obviously, Pep, the sooner you retire, the better. So think about that very carefully. The Doctor of the Year from Harrow is going to be with us after the break. The Council Leader of the Year from Brent. The Business of the Year from Ealing, based out of West London, but now also in Birmingham. And the author of the Book of the Year from Cheshire. We'll be also hearing New Year messages from the Prime Minister and the Mayor of London. My closing song for this part of the programme was one I talked of last week, but unfortunately it got chopped. So we're going to play it again. We have to keep playing it till we hear the full song. And it's written by the British-Indian composer Finn McConnell and is sung by the new talent Marty Zalastra. It comes to London via Vancouver. And we on Leica Radio are always very, very keen to hear from young musicians. Obviously, we have our songs from Bollywood. There's no question of that. We are a Bollywood station. We also like other songs, non-Bollywood songs. But out there is a tremendous amount of British Asian talent. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you think you're a budding musician, if you think that you have got a record that you want to share with all of us, why don't you send it in to us on Leica Radio? And I may not have to time to play it, but I'm sure some of our other excellent presenters will. So join me after the news. Let's hear this record, which we didn't manage to hear last week, but we're going to hear this week. And please stay tuned and join me after the news.
Sleigh bells ring in my ears, snowflakes fall at my feet. Got my family here, Bing Crosby on repeat. watching Christmas movies on TV. It's not a wonderful life without you next to me. Christmas time is here, and it doesn't feel the same without you, dear. I have to let you go because your memories are cold. Stick to me like snow. Stick to me like snow. Your eyes cold. Stick to me like snow. Sleigh bells ring in my ear, snowflakes fall at my feet. Christmas time is here, and it doesn't feel the same without you, dear. Won't let you go, 'cause your memory stick to me. Stick to me like snow. Stick to me like snow. Stick to me. Stick to me like snow. Stick to me.
That was Sticks Like Snow from Marty Zalestri, written by Finn McConnell. I just realised that one of the questions I really wanted to ask Naz Shah, because she had this wonderful Yorkshire accent, whether her favourite tea was from Yorkshire, because that is my favourite tea. They call it English breakfast tea, but actually it's the Yorkshire tea that I like the best. I should have asked her, maybe the next time she comes on. In the meantime, please stay tuned. After the news, we have another hour of Talking Points.
On 1458 in London.
On your mobile.
And on DAB Digital Radio.
This is Leica Radio.
A new centre at midday. The Prime Minister says classrooms are safe and children at most primary schools in England should go back this week. Some teaching unions have urged Boris Johnson to do the same as in London and close all of them across the country following a rise in coronavirus cases. But Rob Halfon, the chair of the Education Select Committee, thinks children should return.
You have to weigh the risks of children not being in school in terms of their educational attainment and mental health and well-being. And we know that despite the wonderful efforts of many teachers and many schools, but millions of children did hardly any learning at all.
Secondary schools open from next Monday. Whilst there are calls from council leaders in Liverpool for another national lockdown to try to stop the spread of coronavirus, COVID-19 cases in the area have almost trebled in the past 2 weeks. The NHS is to ramp up its COVID-19 immunisation programme, with hundreds of new vaccination sites expected to be up and running this week. 530,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca jab will be available in the UK from tomorrow, but Dr Helena McKeon from the British Medical Association says that they're unclear on some of the details.
What we're lacking is transparency in when and where these vaccines will be delivered. We have suffered a shambles of vaccines being promised, cancelled, rearranged. We are not being treated as partners, and we can help if we're treated as partners.
A teenager and a man have been charged with the murder of a pensioner who was strangled in Essex. The body of Donald Ralph was found at his home near Colchester on Tuesday. Northern Ireland's First Minister says the country has a gateway of opportunity post-Brexit. Arlene Foster says she's confident they can flourish in the global market if they leave the EU customs union in 4 years' time. And Manchester City says they're looking into reports defender Benjamin Mendy broke coronavirus rules by hosting a party on New Year's Eve. It's alleged 3 people from outside his household attended. They play Chelsea in the Premier League. That's the latest. I'm James Lewer.
It could be a first-timer or a long-timer or a once-in-a-whiler. It could be a little or a lot. It could be the ticket under your fridge magnet. It could be someone with your first name and last and middle. It could be you. This Saturday's £20 million Lotto jackpot must be won. Or thousands of you will win a share of the jackpot. Play on app, online and in-store. Lotto from the National Lottery. Your nothing happen. Account terms, rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
Kick it! All about the music.
Leica Radio. All about the music.
This is Leica Radio.
Now let's take a look at the weather, brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Good afternoon. The weather today mostly cloudy with frequent and often heavy showers. Scattered showers will continue overnight. The maximum temperature in London would be 5 degrees Celsius and minimum tonight will be 3 degrees Celsius. That's the weather today in London.
The weather update was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
Leica Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458. Thank you for joining me for the second part of the programme. Listening to the weather forecast. Actually, if you look out of the window here at Canary Wharf, it is so sunny. It's a beautiful day and quite different from what is being experienced in other parts of the country. So I'm sorry if you're going to get that blustery wind and showers. We're okay at the moment in Canary Wharf, but you know the thing about the British weather, it can change at any time. What a challenging year it was that just ended at midnight on Thursday. Let's look back at some of the good news from 2020, because despite the coronavirus pandemic, there has been some good news. And we're going to inject some positivity into the first Sunday of 2021. That's our New Year's resolution. We're going to be as positive as possible on Leica Radio. With our first Best of Awards, starting with the Best of 2020. So for this part of the programme, I'm going to be talking to a number of people who have shone in 2020. That's who the listeners group of Talking Points and the Talking Points team have chosen as our Doctor of the Year, Business of the Year, Book of the Year and the Council Leader of the Year. Talking to them about their success. I'm sure you have your own heroes, and as we all know, the biggest heroes of them all, we can't have them all on the programme at the same time, is the hundreds of thousands who work in the NHS. What would we do without those amazing people, the doctors, the nurses, the frontline workers, the ambulance workers, all these people who have saved lives because of what they have done, and those who've been working away in those laboratories, producing those vaccines that will be rolled out this year and that will save even more lives. But before we hear some music, we have edited highlights of 2 New Year messages. I suppose they're like resolutions, but it's actually about the country. And the first is from the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who we all know had a very tough year last year. He had COVID-19 and he survived and he recovered. And the second one is from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who would have had this amazing celebration on the 31st night, but because of the restrictions wasn't able to do so. So let's hear from both of them in turn, starting with the Prime Minister.
As the sun rises tomorrow on 2021, we have the certainty of those vaccines pioneered in a UK that is also free to do things differently and, if necessary, better than our friends in the EU. Free to do trade deals around the world and free to turbocharge our ambition to be a science superpower, from biosciences to artificial intelligence. And with our world-leading battery and wind technology, we will work with partners around the world, not just to tackle climate change, but to create the millions of high-skilled jobs this country will need, not just 2021 as we bounce back from COVID, but in the years to come. This is an amazing moment for this country. We have our freedom in our hands, and it is up to us to make the most of it. And that is what gives me such confidence about 2021. Happy New Year.
Hi, my name is Sadiq Khan and I am the Mayor of London. I'd like to wish a Happy New Year to all Leica Radio listeners. 2020 has been the most difficult year in living memory for most Londoners and for millions of people around the world. But it has also shown the strength of our communities. It has shown the way that Londoners stand together to help one another in the face of adversity. A tribute to the NHS and its heroic staff who have played such a huge role in all our lives this year. They deserve our unending thanks. The approval and rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines means that there is finally some light at the end of the tunnel, so we should all look ahead in hope of 2021. A Happy New Year to all Leica Radio listeners.
Leica Radio.
Everybody say
काली गड्डी काले शीशे काला ऐनक पाया काला चंडीगढ़ तेरे करके आया नहीं तेरे सी अंबाला मुंडा में पंजाबी कुड़ियां कहंदी ला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 काला
jiggle it, my girl, jiggle it. Hey, jiggle it, me tell your girl, jiggle it. Jiggle it, my girl, jiggle it. Me just love it when your girl jiggle it. Sit down on it like chair. Sit down on it like chair. Sit down on it like chair. Y'all me say sit down on it like chair.
लखा विच एक है मिठी सी वे केक है तू कुड़ियां दी क्वीन है बाकी सारी फेक है मैं चोरी चोरी तकदा सोना कोका नकदा करदा तारीफां फैन तेरे लकदा तेरे लिए छिड़ता सोनी बर्गर अंडे वाला
1, 2, 3
कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 कुर्ता पजामा काला 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 काला
Back-to-back hit songs are brought to you by Travel Hub. For the best service with unbeatable price, call Travel Hub on 0208 782 8833.
हमसे सस्ता कहीं नहीं मिल सकता.
Travel Hub.
At all protected.
मैं गप ना कोई मारूं ना बात बोलूंगा कच्ची 2-3 साल से मुझको तू लगी लागने अच्छी तू जान है सच्ची मुच्ची
मैं गप ना कोई मारूं जो बात बोलूंगी सच्ची मैं नखरीली सी छोरी हूँ साथ ही तेरे अच्छी तू जान है सच्ची मुच्ची
जा वहाँ तेरा जहाँ पे हो जहाँ मैंने ये दे दी है जुबान चलता जाऊंगा सुबह को मैं लाऊंगा होठों पे हंसी शामों को बातों में तेरी ढलता जाऊंगा
हाँ मैं रज के चाहूं तुझको ले इश्क में तेरे नची मैं छड्डे कल की बातें फिर आज हो गई बच्ची तू जान है सच्ची मुझे
वो बात बन सुनी है प्यार से बुनी है आज तो गुणी है आरज़ू
ये हम हैं चाहते ना मेरे दिल की आवाज़ें जानती है तू तेरे कहने से भी मैंने परवाज़ें ये हम हैं चाहते या मेरे दिल की आवाज़ें जानती है तू तेरे कहने से ली मैंने परवाज़ें
Like a radio. Like a radio.
Gold Rate on Leica Radio. Brought to you by Gold Bank London. Hassle-free and a reliable way to buy and sell gold coins and bars. Gold Bank, London 215, the Broadway Southall, or buy online at gold-bank.co.uk.
Gold at the moment is trading $61.08 per gram, and in sterling it's 44.67 pounds per gram.
Gold Rate on Leica Radio, brought to you by Gold Bank London. Gold prices have hit a record high. It's time to sell your unwanted gold. Sell your gold with Gold Bank London, 215, the Broadway Southall, or buy online at gold-bank.co.uk.
All about the music.
All about the music.
This is Leica Radio.
Now open a bank account and send money to India instantly without visiting the branch ever. ICICI Bank UK का iMobile app मतलब परदेश में अपना बैंक. Download ICICI Bank UK iMobile app from your app store today. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey Jazz!
Hey Ruby, what a pleasant surprise.
Jazz, have you seen this new show on Colours, NRI Hadsa?
I did, and the last week's show reminded me so much of the story your husband was telling us about his friend. It seemed so real.
I thought so. After a long time, there's an interesting crime show which I could relate to. True stories about NRIs.
TravelUp.com presents NRI Hadsa, powered by ICICI Bank UK, a show inspired from real-life based crimes against NRIs. This Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. on Colours, only on Sky 706 and Virgin 826. Don't miss it, because crimes can happen to anyone at any time.
Enjoy your festive offers and get 50% off for 3 months with Leica Mobile. Get the best offers to connect to your family and friends wherever they are in this world. Talk, browse, roam free this Christmas season with offers from Leica Mobile. Gift a Leica Mobile SIM with data and talk plans and get 50% off for 3 months. Sale ends on the 4th of January 2021. So hurry! Enjoy your festive offer with Leica Mobile.
14:58 a.m. on your mobile and DAB digital radio.
All about the music.
This is Leica Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Faz on Leica Radio 14:58 a.m.
Now let's go over to Brent in North London, to Wembley in particular, and hand over our first award. It is for Council Leader of the Year. This goes to a champion of his community, an ethnic minority leader for the last 8 years, at the forefront of local politics, and a true challenger of structural inequality. It's the leader of the London Borough of Brent, Councillor Mohammed Butt. Councillor Mohammed Butt, welcome to Talking Point. May I, through the medium of radio, hand you over the first Talking Points Council Leadership Award given to you in 2020. Congratulations.
Keith, first of all, can I just thank you so much for your kind words and for being nominated and receiving this award. Honestly, it means so much for myself, for the council and for the residents of Brent to be recognised for the work that we do and deliver on a daily basis, which is extremely hard but absolutely rewarding. And this is one of those rewards for the work and the commitment that we have.
Now, you have been receiving other awards, so this isn't your first of the year. You've just received an award for Council of the Year. Tell us about that award.
You're absolutely right. We've just been awarded the LGC Council of the Year, right? And I think that is one of the highlights of our year. We've had a terrible year, haven't we, with the pandemic. We started off with the Borough of Culture and now leading on to the LGC Council of the Year, which just shows the amount of work, the dedication and the changes that we have made to reflect and to recognise the different communities that we have. And now to be recognised as the Leader of the Year with your award as well, I think is the icing on the cake is this.
We've got lots of Leica radio listeners in the London Borough of Brent, and they've seen the transformation of Brent under your very impressive leadership over the last 8 years. It's been tough. You've had many challenges. Has the pandemic been the biggest challenge that you'll have faced, and you personally have faced, in your 8 years as a leader?
I think every year of the last 8 years has been challenging, right? But each year, right, I think what we have done, right, is we've learnt the lessons of the previous years, and we've recognised the trials and the tribulations that our communities face. But the pandemic has actually tested our resolve. It has tested the resilience of the council and the systems and the process and the structures that we've put in place. And I think that's one of the things that we need to be mindful of. Right, it has been 8 years of challenge and aspiration. I think that has led us to be where we are today, and the trust that communities have in us to be the Council of the Year. And the pandemic has tested our communities. I mean, at one point we had the highest number of cases, the highest number of deaths across the whole country, and today to come through with this sort of recognition of the work and the commitment, and also the trials our communities have gone through, right, and come out through positively at the end as well is a massive result.
This is your third recognition, because earlier this year you were our first guest on Talking Points, and you talked about the importance of being the Borough of Culture, something that was given to you by Mayor Sadiq Khan. Of all the London boroughs, it was Brent. You were the Borough of Culture. You had lots and lots of things planned. I know the pandemic has obviously interfered in all that. What do you think the high point of the Borough of Culture year has been for you?
I think, you know, one of the things we've always tried to say is that we need to recognise the history of our communities, the cultures of our communities, the music, the flavours, the food, and every community that comes into Brent has to be recognised, right, for their commitments and their achievements, right, and what they bring, right, because without all those different communities being part and parcel of Brent, right, I don't think we would have been the Borough of Culture. I don't think we would have been the Council of the Year. And for us today to be recognised, right, with myself being the Leader of the Year as well. It's not myself. It's every single contribution that every single individual has made to the success story of Brent. And these awards are about making sure that going forward, that no one is left behind. And this is what it's all about. And I think the people during the Borough of Culture have come forward and demonstrated that culture, that empathy, that ambition, that aspiration that Brent is all about. And I want to build upon that and just make sure that we showcase the best of who we are, and these 3 awards absolutely showcase, right, that Brent is the leading light when it comes to sort of culture, when it comes to sort of tackling some of the issues around inequalities, and just making sure that every person has the ability to achieve to the best of their ability.
Well, you know, with the Nobel Prize, you get a cheque for 150 to 250,000 quid. With the Oscars, you can stick up your fee for your next film. But I'm afraid for the Talking Points award as Council Leader of the Year, you just get the thanks of the listeners of Leica Radio. In keeping with the way in which people do receive awards in the traditional sense, when they're all sitting around a room and you're called to the platform, who would you like to thank for bringing you to where you are today, this exceptional leader of this exceptional council?
For me, first and foremost, right, it has to go to my family, because remember, the backbone of everyone, right, has to be the people who give you that support, that encouragement, right, and it starts off with my wife, my two sons, my daughter, Rakib, Abdul, Annie, and they're the ones who have given me the support, the encouragement that I actually need to continue. And then it has to be, right, every one of those 59 councillors I work with, right, and they've given me the opportunity to be the leader of Brent and to lead us to this stage where we have been recognised, and cannot the 335,000 people of Brent, right, who have entrusted us, right, to do what we said, and we are absolutely trying to deliver what we said on the door, which is about delivering fairness, jobs and growth, and the final one, resilient communities, and that's what it's all about. And I want to say thank you to all of you and all the listeners at Leica Radio as well.
Councillor Mohammed Butt, congratulations again. Have a very happy new year and have a great 2021.
Thank you very much.
Leica Radio.
Leica Radio.
Hit of the hour, sponsored by Pullman Interiors. Buy a kitchen and get a boiling water tap worth £1,200 absolutely free. Call Pullman on 0208 243 8880.
सारे सैड हो जो मिठो मेरे सर पे चढ़ गई भीड़ पूरी बोतल खत्म करके फुल सेट मैं हो जाऊंगा मुझे घर नहीं जाना यहीं पे मैं सो जाऊंगा सील बोतल की खोल सारे मुझको लगा लो दूर दूर जो बैठी है उन्हें पास बुलवा लो नोटी नोटी कुछ करने का मेरा मुंह दबना है जल्दी से मान जाओ और कुछ तो करवा लो Hit of the hour, sponsored by Pullman Interiors. Buy a kitchen and get a boiling water tap worth £1,200 absolutely free. Call Pullman on 0208 243 8880.
Happy Weekend by MeraBoiler.com. Their special offer, Valiant Boiler with 10 years part and labor guarantee with 0% finance available. MeraBoiler.com.
This is Leica Radio.
Leica Radio. Leica Radio. Travel update.
I'm Michael Page. The A13 Newham Way is still closed heading into town at the Beckton roundabout for the ongoing emergency repairs. The diversion is via the exit and entry slip to rejoin the A13. Congestion is back to Movers Lane. And heading out of town on the A13, approaching the Wennington interchange, there are still 2 lanes closed for emergency repairs. In the city, Bishopsgate is closed southbound for roadworks between Primrose Street and Wormwood Street outside Liverpool Street Station. And staying in the city, Upper Thames Street still has a lane closed heading into town, approaching Southwark Bridge because of emergency repairs. Gunter Grove is closed in the one-way system in Chelsea, coming from Kings Road up to Fulham Road because of an earlier accident. Chalk Farm Road is closed in Camden for bridge maintenance work between Heartland Road and Castle Haven Road. On the trains, there are severe delays on the Central Line between Leytonstone and Epping and Leytonstone and Hainault because of an earlier incident, and there are minor delays on the rest of the line. And there are also still buses replacing Piccadilly Line trains between Hammersmith and both Northfields and Uxbridge, and on the District Line between Turnham Green and Ealing Broadway because of engineering work. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Leica Radio.
You may be in contact with more people over the holidays, so it's critical we watch out for COVID-19 symptoms. Here's Dr. Karim.
Remember the signs of COVID-19, a high temperature or a sudden loss or change in your sense of smell or taste, or a new continuous cough. If you have any of these, even if you are feeling okay, you must isolate at home to stop the spread, and you must book a test immediately. You can book a test as normal throughout the festive season. Use the NHS COVID-19 app or go to gov.uk/coronavirus.
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Leica Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458. Now for our next award. This year, doctors, nurses and frontline health workers have been at the very forefront of the most challenging health crisis this country has ever seen. It is therefore appropriate that we should recognise doctors for their contribution this year. A worthy recipient of this award, as a representative of the medical community, is a frontline hero who has been delivering quality care to her patients throughout the pandemic and now coordinating the vaccine response. It has been found that each month 23 million people, that's more than 3 times the population of London, visit their doctor's surgeries. Joining me from her medical practice in Harrow, good morning, Dr. Radhika Balu. Thank you for joining us on Talking Points today. Congratulations on your award.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you to actually the team, the Leica Radio team itself, for giving me this award and the recognition. I feel embarrassed and also humbled at being singled out among the millions of actually, probably thousands of doctors and frontline workers who are working very, very hard and striving hard during this pandemic. And I'm accepting this award on behalf of everybody, be it the frontline workers or the volunteers or carers and even patients who've been actually, fighting this pandemic till now. And we are still, fighting at the moment. Thank you.
Do you think that this has been the most turbulent, the most toughest year that you've experienced in all your years in medicine, both as a medical student and as a doctor, and indeed as the clinical lead for health in the London Borough of Harrow?
I don't think, this is something that I have actually, what I was reminded of was, I have heard about this in stories. I've heard about actually the plague. I've heard about, these kind of epidemics happening before, before we had antibiotics or vaccines before. And these were all things that I read up. I've never been involved in such a kind of a pandemic ever in my life. And this has been one of the, probably, I don't think the world needs to go through anything like this ever again. And it shouldn't go through anything like this ever again. But it has been a big learning point for all of us and a turning point for whole of the world, I think. We will reflect on this probably in about years to come, and we will probably, our life will change dramatically because of this. So, but this is not something that I have ever encountered in my life. In probably 25 years of medicine, I have never seen anything like this. Probably have heard about the stories and the Shakespeare and stories and the Victorian times, and you think to yourself, these were probably, not really reflecting the reality. But I can tell you now, the reality must have been worse with what they went through.
You mentioned the vaccine. Yeah. I understand that you've already started giving out the vaccine to patients in the Harrow area. Yeah. How is this going?
Oh, this was one of the best things that has happened actually over the last few weeks or so. We started about, 2 weeks ago. And what we have done, we started at the High Football Club in Barnet. And we did a mass vaccination actually in a program there. We did about 3,042 patients over 7 days. And yesterday we've done actually care home vaccinations. We vaccinated about 250 patients yesterday, probably 230 to 250 patients yesterday. And the care home vaccinations are still continuing over the next few weeks or so. We are hoping to vaccinate everybody, in our care homes with the first dose within the next 2 to 3 weeks or so. The mass vaccinations the community vaccinations will continue again. We had a break because, we needed to concentrate our efforts on the most vulnerable at the care homes itself. So we needed actually roving teams to do that. And we did not have enough manpower to do both the things at the same time. But 4th of January, we'll have at least, 2 mass vaccination sites and an additional one, starting the following week. So from the 11th of January. So we'll have 3 sites running simultaneously at the same time. And we would have capacity to vaccinate at least 400 patients every day in each of these sites. And I'm hoping, especially the other great news is that the AstraZeneca has been approved, and AstraZeneca can be actually delivered in GP surgeries rather than the Pfizer biotech. So it's a bit of a good news, but also, it's bittersweet because we are going through the third surge at the moment. And we had been predicting, like with the Spanish flu that happened, the third wave is usually bigger than the first and the second one. So this is what we are going through. But I'm sincerely hoping the vaccination will help us, get out of this as soon as possible.
One final question, Radhika Balu. Will this all end in 2021? We've heard about the mutant virus strain. Will the vaccine that we're currently having cover the mutant virus, or will we have to have another vaccine?
This is something actually promising with the Pfizer BioNTech and also the Moderna, the mRNA vaccines, and also AstraZeneca. What they tell us is what the vaccine actually manufacturers are telling us is this is effective for the new variant. It has not mutated enough so that, these vaccines will not work. So that is the good thing about it. And if you look at Pfizer and the Moderna, the Pfizer one, even though, the logistics are mad because we have to deliver, because it has to be stored at -70, then the way that we treat it like a liquid gold or liquid platinum, or we are treating the vaccine like that. But what it actually looks like is if we are able to deliver the vaccine, the first dose even, it does give immunity within about, after about 10 days or 2 weeks or so after the first dose. And after the second dose, which happens after 21 days, you tend to have actually a 95% protection. So we still have to go out wearing masks, practice social distancing, but at least it would be better. Yeah.
Dr. Radhika Balu, congratulations once again on your award as Doctor of the Year, and thank you for all you do and all that is being done by doctors, nurses and frontline workers in our NHS. Please keep up the good work, and we look forward to talking to you again later on in the year.
Thank you so much, Keith. I hope we'll come out of this, actually, the COVID pandemic very, very soon. That's my sincere hope and prayers. And I hope we come back to normal life, probably in spring or in summer. 2021 will be better for all of us.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458. That was Dr. Radhika Balu from Harrow. I must say, just listening to her, I'm waiting for my letter to arrive so I can go and have my vaccine. It hasn't arrived yet because I'm not in that age group yet. I'm nearly there, but not quite. Now, after the 1 o'clock news, we will have the fabulous Nadeem on, and he is here in the studio. Good afternoon, Nadeem.
Good afternoon, Keith. How are you? Happy New Year, actually.
Happy New Year to you. Now, tell us, did you have a good New Year celebration, or was it just you because of the lockdown rules?
It was me, myself, and I. There you go. It's just that time. I mean, normally I'd be out and about and being very active because I'm a very sociable person, like a lot of people, and it was quite testing. But in a way, in a strange way, I was actually hoping that midnight would come really quick and go. It was one of those ones. However, on the positive side, there was a fantastic view of a really good firework display, which was absolutely awesome. Very noisy, but also they had the dole playing as well at midnight, which was, it added that ethnic vibe to the whole thing.
And did you pass the jazz test? You know this old proverb that the first person who comes through your door after midnight, it's got to be a tall, dark stranger, comes through your door after midnight, you will spend a lot of 2021 with that person. Did anyone come through your door? Poor old Jazz is still waiting for someone, and it's, a few days.
No one came. I waited and waited, and there was no one.
Oh. Well, we'll all be with you after 1 o'clock today. So,
yeah.
Just treat us as if we'd come through your front door.
Absolutely. That's always the case. I even feed you as well.
Great. So everyone stay tuned. After 1 o'clock, it's going to be Nadeem. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458.
This is Leica Radio.
मोहब्बत है ये जी हुजूरी नहीं 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 खुशी में हो तेरी खुशी मोहब्बत में ऐसा जरूरी नहीं मेरी हर खुशी में हो तेरी खुशी मोहब्बत में ऐसा जरूरी नहीं तू जब मिलना चाहे न मिल सकूं न मिलना मेरा कोई दूरी नहीं मोहब्बत है ये जी हुजूरी 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 नहीं मुझको एहसास है पर मैं कहता नहीं मोहब्बत है ये जी हुजूरी नहीं पास पहले के जितना मैं रहता नहीं मोहब्बत है ये जी ये तकाजा है मेरे हालात का लेना देना है नहीं कुछ भी जज्बात का ये सच बात तुझसे मैं कह रहा ना आई है इनमें जरा भी कमी मोहब्बत है ये जी हुजूरी नहीं 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 तुझको मनाना मुझे तो आता नहीं
Like a radio.
Visit travelhubltd.co.uk and get unbeatable deal on any hotel anywhere in the world. Yes, any hotel anywhere in the world.
लॉकडाउन में भी अपनों से मिलाए. Fly India with Air India. Call Travel Hub 24/7 on 0208 782 8833 or visit travelhubltd.co.uk for online registration and formalities. Travel Hub will take care of everything.
Travel Hub, best service with unbeatable price.
At all protected.
T&Cs apply.
Newman Heating की best offer. Install Valiant boiler with free Valiant magnet cleaner and 10 years warranty. Yes, call Newman Heating on 0203 667 3806. Happy New Year.
You may be in contact with more people over the holidays, so it's critical we watch out for COVID-19 symptoms. Here's Dr. Karim.
Remember the signs of COVID-19, a high temperature or a sudden loss or change in your sense of smell or taste or a new continuous cough. If you have any of these, even if you are feeling okay, you must isolate at home to stop the spread and you must book a test immediately. You can book a test as normal throughout the festive season. Use the NHS COVID-19 app or go to gov.uk/coronavirus.
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Enjoy your festive offers and get 50% off for 3 months with Leica Mobile. Get the best offers to connect to your family and friends wherever they are in this world. Talk, browse, roam free this Christmas season with offers from Leica Mobile. Gift a Leica Mobile SIM with data and talk plans and get 50% off for 3 months. Sale ends on the 4th of January 2021. So hurry! Enjoy your festive offer with Leica Mobile.
All about the music.
All about the music.
You're listening to Leica Radio.
This is Talking Points with Keith Faz on Leica Radio 1458 AM.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458. Now we move to our award for Book of the Year. Some of you may have discovered pleasures of reading again during lockdown. Publishers have reported massive uptakes in sales, with sales of fiction rising by a third in 2020, and people turn from TV shows to their favourite books. There have been several excellent books, and I want to give credit to all those who have written them. However, none has been more transformative for me than Emil Heskey's outstanding memoirs. In his autobiography, Even Heskey Scored. He is a football legend and one of our greatest superstars who've made over 500 appearances in Premier League matches during his 18-year career. He is also an ambassador and the coach for the Leicester women's football team. Of course, we had to have someone from Leicester. I'm pleased, therefore, to present him with the award for Book of the Year. Good morning, Emil, and thank you for joining us on Talking Points this morning.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you for that intro, by the way. What an intro that was.
Well, it's all true. There is no fake news on Leica Radio. Anyway, many congratulations. You have won our award for Book of the Year. Is it like winning an Oscar? How do you feel?
Better. Well, I haven't won an Oscar, so I can only say it's better. No, it's a great honour to be first nominated and then obviously winning it. It's great. The book was something that I never thought about doing before someone came to me and basically pitched an idea to me. It was cathartic, to be honest with you. I look back at my career and I never actually had a chance to look back at my career after it. I got a chance to look back at it while I was doing it and really appreciate what I've actually achieved and what I did over the years.
Well, we appreciate what you've achieved, and it's nice that it's put there for those to look at it as far as the history making that you performed. But how difficult was it to put your thoughts down, to remember what you did 20 years ago and what somebody had said to you? Because you didn't keep a diary, did you?
No.
It was just all from memory.
Yes. The funny thing is, once you start to think back and once you start getting certain games, I obviously worked with a great ghostwriter in Dean Elrich, who's a big Leicester fan anyway, so he would actually talk to me about certain games, and then it just started flooding back, and I remember certain things during them games and certain goals. Then you start to look at other things, and you forget some of the stuff that you've actually done, and it was great to actually look back, but again, it was tough because it's remembering everything that you've done, because I actually started at 17, so it's a long time.
Now, the issue of racism, which you refer to, of course, in your book, is still uppermost in people's minds. Do you think that the Black Lives Matter has made an impact on the football world? And do you think that players should continue to take the knee as they're doing before every match?
I think it's made an impact because, again, it's got us talking about it, it's got us actually discussing it a little bit more now, and it's probably look now more so at what sort of results we can get, what sort of impact we can make as the footballing community. Do I think they should be still taking the knee? I think it's up to the individual. I think with that, the thing with taking the knee was it was relevant and it brought a light to something that was going on, but we still haven't had the answers and we still haven't had any progression. And it's about progression, isn't it? So if the knee is something that we're saying that is making progression and is still bringing the talking points to the table, then yes. But if it's not bringing any progression, then possibly need to look at it.
And what do you think we can do further? Throughout your career, you have talked about it. You have been a huge role model to young black players. How do we get people into management? Now, you have taken on the responsibility. You're an ambassador for the football club. You're also a coach for the women's football club. Women's football, of course, has really taken off. How do we get black players into management? Not just club management, but also the highest reaches of the FA and the Premier League? Because we're still not there, are we?
No, we're far from it, to be honest with you. But again, I think we're taking steps. The Rooney Rule was one. There was a few things that the FA have put in place. But again, I think we've when it comes to the hiring of coaches, of people within clubs and footballing associations, I think that is where the change needs to be as well, because we've got the same people hiring for years and years. That's not going to change, especially if your viewpoint is on. And at times, we've spoke about this where it's an unconscious bias. You don't actually know that you're actually doing it. And this is where things could possibly change, and you see things from a different light when you're actually having different people in that hiring seat.
Emil Heskey, it always gives us enormous pleasure, I think, the listeners of Leica Radio, other people, when we see you on telly and commentating on matches. But what has given me and others even greater pleasure is reading about your remarkable life. Thank you for what you've done. Congratulations on your award. I am looking forward to volume 2 of Even Heskey Scored, which I'm sure you will be doing. So this time, I think you should keep a diary.
Yes, I should do. Thank you. That is a good idea, actually.
Emil Heskey, congratulations and a very happy new year and great success for the future.
Thank you very much, Keith, and to you.
Leica Radio.
AM.
Online.
And DAB Digital Radio.
You're listening to Leica Radio.
All about the music. All about the music.
Now open a bank account and send money to India instantly without visiting the branch ever. ICICI Bank UK का iMobile app मतलब परदेश में अपना बैंक. Download ICICI Bank UK iMobile app from your app store today. Terms and conditions apply.
You may be in contact with more people over the holidays, so it's critical we watch out for COVID-19 symptoms. Here's Dr. Karim.
Remember the signs of COVID-19, a high temperature or a sudden loss or change in your sense of smell or taste or a new continuous cough. If you have any of these, even if you are feeling okay, you must isolate at home to stop the spread and you must book a test immediately. You can book a test as normal throughout the festive season. Use the NHS COVID-19 app or go to gov.uk/coronavirus.
Stay alert, control the virus, save lives.
Enjoy your festive offers and get 50% off for 3 months with Leica Mobile. Get the best offers to connect to your family and friends wherever they are in this world. Talk, browse, roam free this Christmas season with offers from Leica Mobile. Gift a Leica Mobile SIM with data and talk plans and get 50% off for 3 months. Sale ends on the 4th of January 2021. So hurry! Enjoy your festive offer with Leica Mobile.
During the pandemic, people started listening to radio for more information and entertainment. Radio is a comfort medium that people listen to everywhere, through radio, online, mobile app and smart home devices like Alexa. If you are running a business and want to reach out to the masses throughout the day, then radio is the best cost-effective reminder. Call Leica Media Experienced Sales Team today to discuss your advertising needs on 0207 132 1458. That's 0207 132 1458.
Leica. This is Leica Radio.
That's it for this week. This has been Keith Vaz on Leica Radio 1458. We've literally been round the world, starting in Bradford with Naz Shah MP, then to Goa to talk to Valenka Alamo, then to Brent to talk to Councillor Mohammed Butt, then to Harrow to talk to Dr. Radhika Balu, then to Cheshire to talk to Emil Heskey, and finally to Edgware, to Manju Patel for the Songs of the Week. Thank you, all of them, for taking part in the programme. And of course to the Prime Minister. We went to Downing Street and then to Tooting to talk to the Mayor of London. I have a question for Jazz, my fact of the week. Jazz is still here. Her little fingers have been working on the control panel to make sure that I haven't done anything wrong. Jazz, who do you think the most hardest working mother in on the planet is?
Keith, I think you're talking about me. All the mothers are hardworking.
I know you're a very hardworking mother, but actually it's not you. Did you know that a female octopus lays 56,000 eggs at any time? That the mother spends 6 months so devoted to her young ones that she does not eat. Imagine not eating for 6 months.
Oh God,
Jazz.
Yeah, that's really hard.
It is hard, and the babies are the size of a grain of rice. 56,000 are laid at any given time.
Ooh.
And we have a problem with 2.
I know. Ask.
So are you glad you're not a female octopus?
No. I give it to her.
Give it to her. Leica Radio enters a new era next week with the appointment of a shining new 38-year-old Chief Executive, Raj Badan. Born in Birmingham in the West Midlands, but working in Leicester for the last decade. He is the founder of the influential website bizasialive.com. And that's a great way to start the new year for Leica with a new CEO. So good luck, Raj. By the way, listeners, Raj has promised to give me his first exclusive interview, so we will hold him to that. Congratulations to one of our previous Talking Point special guests, Nina Wadia, on getting an MBE at last. Goodness gracious me. And, of course, a knighthood for Lewis Hamilton, who I first met in 2007. Arise, Sir Lewis. And our Christmas song last week, Wham's Last Christmas, written by George Michael, has made it to #1 in the charts after 36 years after it was released. Imagine, we played Wham last Christmas, 36 years later, and it's #1. Well done to Wham. And a posthumous well done, of course, to George Michael. Clearly like a magic. Thanks to my producers, Rupi and Eve, to Jazz for helping me today, and to my editor, Adam. Thank you for joining me today. I know you have a choice. Thank you for spending a bit of your Sunday morning with me. And stay tuned for Nadeem, who will be taking over the reins after the 1 o'clock news. And he has got a fabulous show lined up, as he always has. My final song is one of the most successful bands in the history of the planet. And I have to admit, it is, of course, one of my favourite bands. And I have to say, over Christmas, I watched Mamma Mia 2 yet again, I think probably for the 30th time. I joined in the singing very unsuccessfully, much to the, well, I won't say what the family thought. Let's hear ABBA's Happy New Year. And from all of us here, genuinely, a better new year in 2021. All of us at Leica wish you, all the listeners, a very happy new year. Please stay safe and have a great Sunday.
And the fireworks are through. Here we are, me and you, feeling lost and feeling blue. It's the end of the party, and the morning seems so grey, so unlike yesterday. Now's the time for us to say Happy New Year, Happy New Year. May we all have a vision now and then of a world where every neighbor is a friend. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. May we all have our homes, our will to try. If we don't, we might as well lay down and die. You and I. Sometimes I see how the brave new world arrives, and I see how it thrives in the ashes of our lives. Oh yes, man is a fool, and he thinks he'll be okay, dragging on, freedom play, never knowing he's astray, keeps on going anyway. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. May we all have a vision now and then of a world where every neighbor is a friend. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. May we all have our homes, our will to try. If we don't, we might as well lay down and die. You and Seems to me now that the dreams we had before are all dead. Nothing more than confetti on the floor. It's the end of a decade. In another 10 years' time, who can say what we'll find? What lies waiting down the line? In the end, I'm 89. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. May we all have a vision now and then of a world where every neighbor is a friend. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. May we all have our homes, our will to try. If we don't,
On 1458 in London.
On your mobile.
And on DAB Digital Radio.
This is Leica Radio.
From the Sky News Centre at 1, the Children's Commissioner for England says she agrees with Boris Johnson's decision to keep most primary schools open this week. Some teaching unions have urged the government to close all of them across the country following a rise in coronavirus cases. Last Friday, it was announced primaries in London would shut. Anne Longfield says this decision shouldn't be taken lightly.
As a matter of course, I think that needs to be a last resort. It needs to be the absolute minimum amount of time possible. And also that time needs to be really well used to get very good testing regimes set up in schools, but also vaccination for teachers as a priority.
Whilst Tony Blair is urging the government to completely rethink the UK's strategy in order to give people the coronavirus vaccine as quickly as possible.
The pharmacies that do the normal flu jab, we should be using for this vaccine as well. Occupational health workers, we should be training more volunteers. We need to mobilise resources on a scale that we've never seen before in peacetime in this country.
The former Prime Minister has been speaking as hundreds of new vaccination sites across the UK are expected to be up and running this week. From tomorrow, 530,000 doses of the newly approved Oxford AstraZeneca jab will start being available across the country. Liverpool's council leaders say a national lockdown is the only option to avoid a coronavirus catastrophe. The city's mayor, Wendy Simon, has joined those calls, warning we're reaching alarming levels of infections. 12 people found hiding at an East London restaurant and breaking coronavirus restrictions have been fined. They were discovered whilst playing dominoes by police. In sport, there will be no professional boxing in the UK this month because of the rise in COVID cases. The British Boxing Board of Control's cancelled events which were due to take place under its jurisdiction. And FIFA's confirmed that England defender Kieran Trippier's 10-week ban from football for breaking betting rules has been halted. His club Atletico Madrid has appealed the English Football Association's sanction, which is applicable worldwide. That's the latest. I'm James Lewis.
Like a Radio.
All about the music.
You're listening to
Like a Radio.
Now let's take a look at the weather, brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Very good afternoon to you on this Sunday, the 3rd of January. So taking a look at the weather today, it's mostly cloudy and some heavy showers are